Dad trusted this guy.
So you believe that there was some of these groups working together?
I believe there was a full-on, planned and calculated collusion.
I got stacks of papers about that thick from them attorneys, and it shows right there on them papers where them some bitches are stealing it from you.
What I know is real. The yellow is questionable, and the orange I know are forged.
By Pocatello, Millennial, and Portneuf done to us, it has deprived us of any member of our family for even building a house on our own property. Now, we've got 943 acres up there. And because what has been done to our family, we can't build one single house. I mean, that's unlawful. It should be.
I'm pretty sour about the goddamn law.
Something has got to be done. And I think between the Harts and us, that's the only chance we've got of cleaning up this judicial system here in Pocatello.
This is a story as old as the West. Since the dawn of our country, men have fought over land and water. This is that story.
When I was young, my daddy said, gotta keep one eye open in your bed, 'cause there's a time coming when the devil gonna come for you. So my trigger finger, stay prepared. I've got my weapon and I got my prayers, 'cause if you don't run this town, they'll walk all over you. I run out loud, gotta run on. Keep on running till the sun goes down. You can outrun the devil, but you ain't gonna outrun me. You can outrun the devil, but you ain't gonna outrun me.
Sound speed?
Big.
You guys are good, right?
Ultimately, when we came into this, we were surprised at the sheer audacity that everybody had to commit such a ludicrous and brazen attempt to defraud two families. That what I see here is people that really tried to get creative in terms of what they could get away with. What they forgot was that these families have a say in what's happening. These are activities that you see in developing countries. You see this in fragile countries. I'm surprised it got to this level in the first place.
There's a huge amount of acreage just on the north end of Pocatello that was primed for development. It had the terrain, the flat land, the water, everything needed for this smart city that was gonna basically be a model for future development throughout the region.
First part of 2016 is when this, what I call the Northgate Partnership, formed with the developers, Millennial Development, with another group called Portneuf Development, and the city of Pocatello. They envisioned the idea of a interchange that had been discussed for a lot of years off of I-15. This is kind of an important crossroads, and there was a vision of turning this entire area into a city, about a $1 billion development with parks and with skyscrapers and hotels, and I mean, they had very grand plans for this place. The city of Pocatello, the Bannock County, they did this study, they anticipated $500 million in property tax revenue to come from this development. Of course, this was before they even had the land annexed and they had figured out the water issues. So everyone was seeing dollar signs.
The developers, with their vision, had created this 15-minute smart city right on the outskirts of Pocatello, sold that vision to investors. Investors sent money into the program, but the developers didn't own the land.
Two contractors get married, what do you have? 40 of everything.
Like, how many people do you know that still have the same land and the same family for
Yeah.
this many generations?
All together, how many generations of your family on this range?
Great grandma and grandpa, so Louisa and Bobo,
And then my dad.
your dad and mom. And then your dad had a sister, Dora,
Yeah.
and she actually went to World War I. She was born in 1905. Survived World War I as a nurse, and she came back and she got married and had a baby, and then she died of, I think, consumption or tuberculosis. But she died in a little brick house. So she did have a son, Bill Reese, and he's passed. He never had any children. So then it was just my grandpa, your dad. So he's got 12 grandkids and 12 great-grandchildren. So really it's, with the littles, it'd be 7
With the
generations.
littles, not, as of today, there's 7 generations of the Hart bloodline in this. That is amazing.
And we were Hartwigsen, but nobody could pronounce Grandpa's name at the rodeos, so he started going by Hart instead of Hartwigsen.
The Harts themselves were an epic cowboy figure. The rodeo history from Harry Hart winning the world champion bulldogger 1939. You think about rodeo today and you jump on an airplane, go to here, you have a driver haul your horse from here to there, you fly to taking your horse to the train station, putting him on a train from Idaho to go to New York to be a world champion steer wrestler in 1939. With Harry Hart, which would be
Harry
Jim's
Hart,
father.
Jim's father. He would come and pick us kids up, and sometimes it was a sleigh or a sled that had the, depending on the year, and sometimes it was a sleigh. And he would have boxes of apples and oranges, and we would go out all through the reservation and deliver those boxes of food to different families.
And
out
what
there.
years was that in?
Oh, that would have been in the 50s.
50s. Yeah, he was just like a second dad to us. You know, all of us 6 kids were born and raised here. In fact, my mother was born and raised in the house that we lived in and grew up in. Our grandfather came here from New Zealand.
They left New Zealand in 1919, but so they came to Pocatello in 21, but they were living out south of town in a little one-room house. And one day my grandmother went in, she was out hanging clothes on the line, and she went in and my aunt was sitting in the floor on the dirt floor, and there was a rattlesnake there. My grandmother snatched her up and went out, and she says, "I'm never going back there again." So that's when they found the farm out on here in Tyhe.
That's one way to get your husband to build you a new floor, isn't it?
Yeah.
My grandfather, just before the Depression, went out and bought a lot of land from the farmers that didn't have any money. And then after the Depression was over with, he sold that land back to them for what he had paid them for it. And so everybody kind of helped each other, worked with each other so that they could all save their land.
Well, my granddad come out here in, I think, about 1908 and homesteaded back over the hills here where they had it 160 acres. And Grandma, she finally started a dairy. She had some old milk cows, and she had these mules, but she'd put a team together, 2 mules, and take off towards town with them. She'd go to sleep until the mules stopped. And they'd get down on Main Street and the mules would stop at every place she delivered milk. And she'd go ahead and run her milk route. She'd done a hell of a job with them old mules.
Our family goes generationally. We're dowsers or water witches. My dad has done tons of wells for farmers and friends, but in the 90s there was an abandoned dump that was leaking toxic waste into the Portland River, I believe. And Daddy offered to help the city, and he got a lot of flack. People were just like, "Oh, that's just no," you know. But he found where the dump was leaking toxic waste into the local river. So there's Daddy dowsing. But I'm a dowser too. Yeah, so these are brass. I can also use a switch from one of the apple trees.
Do anything with your thumbs or just hold it?
Just be comfortable. Try to hold them level. And try to think about the water.
Okay.
Can we give it a walk? Think about water. Okay?
Okay.
Mark it. Let me see what I get. Sometimes when they cross, you found a place where 2 veins cross. So they react a little different for you. Yeah. It's okay. Every dowser has their own way, and the more they do it, like down in that labor house down there, I don't know if you've explored that yet. That's quiet. There's some footage in there. But there's this Dad bought this funny little old pump, and we used to find, and it would only go, I think, like 120 feet deep. And we'd buy the pipe, and Dad and I'd go out, and we would test it. We're like, all right. So we'd drill, well, this one's 60 feet. And we'd practice, and we'd call the depth and stuff. And then we'd get that little rig, and we would check ourselves, and we were always spot on. Yeah. Anybody else want to give it a go?
The Hart and Rupp families are genuine Western families whose ancestors settled the valley. Were some of the very first homesteaders in the region. They're the ones there that started the farming, the agriculture, the water development. Very critical figures, not in just the development of Pocatello, but the development of the whole region.
So when I moved into this house, I was told, do not go past that fence. The cranky old farmer on the other side, and I just thought, that doesn't work for me. He's just a lovely person, and he actually reminded me a lot of my father. And so as he was, swathing hay or baling or whatever, I would bring him out a sandwich, brought him cookies. They started calling me Cookie Mama, so we just became friends.
We have horses up here. I don't love horses, but I love my daughters, and my daughters love horses. So that's why I have horses, but my kids can come up here anytime they want. Our family has a couple keys to this gate, and it's great because the Harts are like, hey, we'll shoot after midnight, like no trespassing, and don't go over there. But they're like the nicest people in the world. Like if you meet them, like, oh, hey, here's a key to our house.
Do you have sheep up here?
Got, yeah, I have one sheep. I used to have a goat, but something happened.
What do you like better, sheep or goats?
goats. They're
Why?
much funnier.
Ah.
You go up to Jim's a lot.
Yeah.
And say hi to Grandpa.
Before we had 4-H, we used to go there a lot.
You said Grandpa.
We call him Grandpa a lot.
Oh, you
I don't
just
know.
call Jim Grandpa.
Sometimes we do. A lot of the times. Yeah.
Grandpa.
Yeah.
It's like you have your own next door grandpa.
Yeah, it's true.
Growing up, I remember Grandpa always out here breaking horses and, of course, watching the Cowboy Way. Everybody, I want to be the cowboy. So Grandpa'd have a bronchi horse or something. I'd be like, I want to ride that one. And he would just laugh at me and say, yeah, we're going to wait a little while before we ride that one. Recently, when Jamie moved back, I just feel like we've had a lot of time trying to get everything back up and running.
Oh, I think it's been about 3 years that she moved here.
What was your first introduction to Jamie?
I just didn't know what to think. There's been so many people come and go out of. Jim's been my steady constant. I know Jim. I love Jim. We have a great relationship. And so I guess Jamie coming in, we kind of sized each other up. Like, who are you? And what role do you play in this now?
I said, honey, I gotta go take care of my dad. I want to move to my ancestral ranch in Idaho. And I said, all right, baby, wherever you go, I go. He came here sight unseen.
So he's cool as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he is absolutely my best friend in the whole wide world.
Yeah. You've got like your own mobile support system, sort of.
It is actually really tough because, like I said before, my family is pissed that Dad picked me to be executor and his power of attorney. And Dad got to the point where he can't go to court 17 times a month. And he, just with all of this. And so it's been a slow transition over the last 3 years. And it didn't happen right away, but it's almost like I got here and proved myself. And he's like, all right, you're not just here with your hand out, you're here for me. And then, yeah, but my brothers are older than me and they've had tough, hardworking lives. And I think they feel like I'm greedy, but I'm just here. I'm not taking this place anywhere. I'm going to save this place. I only have one kid. Between the two of them, they have like 11. And I will make sure every one of my nieces and nephews is taken care of. And hopefully one of these kids, when they grow up, can be the one that says, all right, it's my turn. I'll take care of the ranch, and all the family can always come home to the ranch.
She's completely restored it for us, for the family, and she always says, this is your ranch to the kids. She says, this is your ranch, this is here for you. I'm, trying to preserve it for generations to come. And I think that's really magical and special, and I'm really glad that she's around to do that.
Just the history here, even when I've been away for a couple years, like it's a part of me, regardless of where I might move or live. This is a part of my history. So it's hard to see the city kind of encroach. It's hard to see the interstate run through fields that I used to plow as a teenager. And I understand, that happens, growth happens, but some things are worth preserving, and I think the ranch is one of them.
This is Ms. Haley Dawn Havens, and our mothers and fathers were friends before we were ever born, 13 months older than me. And we grew up together, and we were friends all through high school. We got in a spot of trouble together, not too much. I know there was no social media then.
Thank goodness.
So when I moved home 3 years ago, when Daddy asked me to come back to the ranch, my husband and I loaded up, and it was quite a move. 3 flatbed semis, and left a lifetime behind us. And I got here, and she said, you at the ranch? And, in a message, I said, yeah. She's like, she lived 5 minutes away. I'm there. So she was here the first day we moved home, and even though we hadn't seen each other in like 30 years, it was like no time had passed. Just picked up right where we left off. So, but this mess that we're in, I couldn't have figured it all out without her. So she's very organized,
And
So Haley, what role have you taken on the ranch?
Well, anything from ranch manager to, they call me the handler, because if something needs done, I just do it for them.
In the very beginning of the Northgate project, the Hart Ranch and Rupp Farms, they were excited for the possibility to be able to sell some of their land for development. And they worked well with the city and the developers to get a project started.
And they approached us. Jim called me and asked me to come up to his house, and he was going to have somebody there to explain this. Well, it happened to be our county commissioner, Evan Frazier. So Jim and I and Evan Frazier sat down for a couple hours and going over these maps, and Evan Frazier was pushing this thing, how wonderful it was going to be. We said, well, we've always wanted to have an intersection in there, and he says, well, the cavalry's have arrived, you know, and then they show us all this big plan of this city up there, but Jim and I talked, I don't know how many hours over all this stuff about values of land, and what him and I wanted to do kind of a development together clear back in 2003 or 4. But that was something that Jim and I had a dream of doing something, you know, years ago. Well, they wanted to buy enough land for the interchange off of Interstate 15, and then enough land, a right-of-way of 150 foot wide to put a road up to the city they wanted to build. And we basically said, yes, we'll sell that extra land, and we'll do it, you know, at a discount with basically half the price. Had it in a contract that there was going to be an intersection put in at no cost to us because we gave them such a good deal on that land.
Construction starts in 2017, and the Rupps are just kind of watching what's going on as they're building this road. The mayor is holding press conferences about how this is going to change Pocatello forever, and it was a big deal. It was a big deal. Neither the Rupps or the Harts knew was that this partnership, which included government entities and private developers, really had no interest in providing any kind of benefit to either the Rupps or the Harts.
Just before the road was done, they said, well, we need some more land to the east of you. And so we decided to sell them another strip for the road that they wanted to their city. And the road gets built, and it's completed. We have no access to our property.
No intersection.
No intersection. So we're sitting there saying, where's our intersection? And the next picture shows we've got a 10-foot control strip on both sides of our roadway, and blocking us off of our land.
So control strips are patently illegal, but they are strips of land that are put alongside of a roadway where the property owner retains the land, and the purpose of them is to prevent other people from having access.
And then Millennial and Portneuf had come to me wanting to purchase our land, and they offered us $3,000 an acre. And we knew it's worth more than that. Farmland's worth more than that. Wasteland's more than that. I said, you gotta be kidding me. And they says, well, it's only farmland.
The Rupps, they're still wanting to farm, but they have prime property right off the interstate, and the family is ready to develop that. And I didn't know at first really how, the Rupp case and the Hart case were connected. Both the Rupps and the Harts have these very senior water rights. Water rights are absolutely essential for any development.
The city of Pocatello comes out to me and says, we're going to develop your water source, but we're not going to guarantee you any water for 5 to 10 years or until millennial development have all their water needs taken care of. And I asked them, well, what if we need that for our farm? And they said, that's the way it's going to be.
Water is the lifeblood of the entire West. Without water, we are nothing. Idaho would still be a barren sagebrush desert without water development. And these farms in that region, especially the Hearts and the Rups, that are the only water on that side of the valley for miles and miles and miles, without their water, their ranch and their farm dies.
I think it was 2017, I got a phone call from Mayor Blad, who was the mayor of Pocatello. He said, but the reason I want to have this meeting is I understand Chubbuck is trying to pressure you into annexing the Chubbuck. I says, that's not true. Till the intersection's completed, we look the situation over, we get access, whatever we need, then we'll make some decisions. 5 weeks later, I get a phone call from the mayor of Chubbuck. He says, I've just been told by the mayor of Pocatello that if you annex into Chubbuck, Pocatello is going to cut off all the sewer to the city of Chubbuck. Well, Pocatello had taken their water department and their department heads up and showed them the water source. I says, now what can you guys do for us? And they says, well, basically nothing. We need your water. And I said, well, what about sewer? And they said, well, it's going to cost you about $9 million. You're going to have to put in 2 lift stations. So a few weeks later, I took the counterparts from the city of Chubbuck up, showed them exactly the same thing, drove the same tracks and everything, bore a hole under the freeway, hook onto the sewer line on Garden Road. It's going to cost you $300,000 to $500,000. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute here. Do I want to spend $9 million or $500,000? So I had to make a choice. Guess what I did? We annexed 320 some acres into the city of Chubbuck.
The RUP plan went south on them. They have gotten desperate and they've decided our only choice now is to take the heartland. So they have aggressively started a process to try to annex this entire ranch, to punch a road right through the front gate, cutting off their access. They're about as desperate measures as I have seen a government try to do.
I mean, it literally took us 1.5 years to go through all of the paperwork that went back through the 40s and 50s to figure out every parcel, every sale. And then as we've been working, we're like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't look right. And then we look into it and we realize, oh, they slipped in a strip of land in this deal that now landlocks us from all our parcels. And so as we have worked, her and I kind of, I guess, unfolded this giant collusion and conspiracy between these developers and city officials and judges. And every time we look at each other, she's like, Jamie, you got to look at this. This isn't right. Or I'm like, Haley, I don't feel like this is right. And then we dig into it and we find more.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of issues down on Northgate in itself.
Well, I think...
But that was land that was intended to be sold and developed. That was before Jamie and I even got here. That happened before then. What has transpired since we stopped selling, like we pretty much could put the kibosh on land being sold, then all of the other things that came out after that is the fight
well, finding out that our entire ranch is landlocked by strips and parceled out, and the gate is stolen, and every single spot where we take our water rights has been...
About 2016, the developers, this Millennial Development, which is a group out of Utah that just rolled into town, had approached Jim Hart about entering into these what are called option agreements. Prior to that point, there was another fellow by the name of Ken Papy, who had actually been kind of a friend of Jim Hart over the years, and he had convinced Jim Hart to deed over a huge amount of property to Mr. Papy on basically a handshake deal that every time that he sold a piece of property, he'd give him $17,000 an acre. Well, none of this was in writing, And the option agreement itself was not a valid contract because it didn't comply with the statute of frauds. There was no consideration paid for it. It was just, their whole purpose was to lock down the property and prevent him from doing anything with it without having to spend a dime.
Papy.
Yeah.
And then he turned around and sold for $2 million or something?
Yeah, that cocksucker, him and I was partners on a lot of that shit to start out with.
Right.
And all of a sudden he's kicking me out and he's registering that shit into his name. But yeah, that no good son of a bitch. He's a liar and a cheat. And God, we got to look at some of them. I got stacks of papers about that thick from them attorneys and you know, where the shows right there on them papers where them some bitches are stealing it from you.
Jim Hart was becoming overwhelmed with the amount of paperwork and documents, and he just couldn't process them all. So he called his daughter to come help him, Jamie Hart. And when she arrived to help her dad go through all these legal documents, that's when she noticed that Beard St. Clair was representing Jim Hart as well as Millennial Development. You cannot have the same attorney representing both sides. It's completely illegal, actually.
And even when Dad said at different times, I'm confused, I don't know what's going on here, I don't want to sign that. Then they'd send, we have emails, one would send another an email, we'll get so-and-so to go talk to Jim, he'll get him to sign it. You know, and my dad really trusted Ken Papy, didn't you?
Yeah.
And boy, he never once had my dad or this family's best interest at heart. You know, and they'd done work, 20 years previous together and done all right. And so Dad trusted this guy.
So you believe that there was some of these groups working together?
I believe there was a full-on, planned and calculated collusion between these developers, city officials.
A couple of years ago, I started going back and researching city council minutes and meetings. And I went clear back to January 1st, 2016. And I looked up anything that was related to our property, the Hart property, and the Northgate District property when they first announced this. And I printed that information off. And I kept doing that. And until in October 2021, I got COVID. I spent 5 weeks in the hospital, and after I got out, I started printing more stuff out and then compared it to stuff that I'd printed off 6 or 8 months earlier. And some of the agenda items had been whitewashed or cut and pasted or blacked out. Who in the city was able to go in and whitewash that and take it off their minutes?
The problem with Northgate is they don't have enough water to build this development, and the city's bankrupted themselves on this development without a public bond. And there's this whole grand scheme was like, well, who has the water on the East Bench? There's multiple springs that bubble up out of the water. So this is the headwaters, the source of Little Pocatello Creek, which is our water right from 1906. Now, part of the problem right now is that the city of Pocatello is going to annex this, but when they do that, then they pull my water source into the city limits, and then God knows what they're gonna slowly do over time to try to, they can't develop the North Gate and the East Bench without my water. And there's no cows up above it, so I wouldn't be afraid to drink it, really. And it's also the source of water for all the wildlife up here. There's no other water on the East Bench. So the moose, the deer, everything.
You look around, I mean, the writing's on the wall here. If you can't develop property after, well, 7 years, you're not going to develop it. And, you know, it's time to give it up. This millennial group, once they started coming under the heat, they basically left town. And you don't hear much from Ken Papy. I've heard that he's now moved to Arizona. And so what you have left now is the city of Pocatello, because they can't go anywhere. I think they're trying to find other developer partners to finish this off. The only thing that's going to happen is the taxpayers paying more taxes and losing money. And in fact, the city of Pocatello is wanting to increase their property taxes another 5%. So it's the taxpayers who get absolutely hosed in this whole thing.
Eventually, you know, Pocatello wants to grow, right? And so you've got to figure out, you know, if we're going to grow, where are we going to put those people? And then they make these maps to say, hey, well, we're going to put them here and here and here and here. And they don't ask anybody. And they don't they're just kind of like, hey, if you had a blank check and you could do anything you want, what would you do? But in the end, you have to follow some rules. They don't follow those rules. They just go, this is what it's going to do.
One day, all of a sudden, there's a guy outside my door, and it's a surveyor, and one of the guys from Digline, the service locator. We're here to locate services and start surveying. And I said, you're trespassing. Get off my ranch. And I called Nate. I said, Nate, we need to do something. And he says, I'll file Liz Pendens immediately. And we filed and recorded that. Liz Pendens millennial group responded within a day. The following day, I think it took a total of 2 days. And the judge just released it, which means at any point, they can come up here and start bulldozing through my ranch. I can't legally stop them. And the judge won't hear the cases of why. It is absolutely mind-boggling. There have been times when I'm just like, am I in the twilight zone? What is going on here?
It's wild stuff, but...
Tell him what they did to you with reps. The night before, he's got to respond to a motion. They dropped 12,000 documents on him at midnight.
Now they're mad at me and my family because we wouldn't sell it to them for nothing. And I kept telling them that we're not going to sell anything, we're not going to lease anything, we're not going to partner with anybody, and we're not going to develop anything until the interchange is completed. So they conspired together, blocked us off of our land. They're all mad and thinking that they're going to put the thumb on us, which they've told people that they got their thumb on us so tight, it's like a tight nut on a bolt, and we'll never be able to do anything with our land, and that's what they've told people.
Well, anytime you're taking on, particularly a government agency, it's almost like you're up against unlimited resources.
Everywhere we turn, we just get a door shut on us. So that's why we've invited Western Justice here.
Through our interview, what started off as a forced annexation case quickly revealed itself to be much darker, deeper, and nefarious than we ever anticipated it would be. So what Western Justice did was we called in the big guns. We called in our friends that were former military counterintelligence operatives that have done this kind of work all over the world. And what they found in a very short period of time even shocked them.
Talk a little bit about what we've learned about Millennial Group and who that is and what their history is.
Millennial Development Group is basically a shell company from a guy named Arvel Buck Swaney. And he is a guy out of Utah. He is basically what we've uncovered to be a fraudster. He has opened about 35 different shell companies throughout his business career. He has claimed to have built a number of different cities and developments which have turned out to be completely false. We've looked into his past performances. None of it has really come into fruition.
After they would get a big chunk of money, either from the city or Department of Health or one of their other investors, they would go deposit it into the bank, and then on the same day come out, sometimes with huge amounts of cash or a cashier's check. But there's one transaction where Ken Papy walks into the bank and comes out with $300,000 in cash, like dollar bills. So now this is their bank activity, right?
$2.5 million teller cash withdrawal.
Well, look at on June 5th of 2018, Ken Papy's just pulling out 131 grand. You don't see these on the tax returns. I think they just pocketed the money. But in the meantime, you get these, like there's just $300,000. Who are they paying off? Why would you go in and get $300,000 in cash? So you're paying somebody off.
Yeah.
So Ken Papy showed that he withdrew millions of dollars, between $1 to $2.5 million, very soon after purchased a home in Sedona, Arizona, in cash for one of the withdrawal amounts, which was $1.5 million, and has not since been seen in Pocatello or in East Idaho.
You have these very strange looking financial transactions, wads of cash, money being deposited in the bank, taken out the same day, and then you look at, okay, what's going on in the scene at this time? You have city officials out there making promises, doing things, and county officials, and none of which actually directly benefit the city itself. So all they have to do is follow the money. If they follow the money, they're going to find out exactly what's going on. After 2 years of trying to get these issues into the court, what is the first one he's allowing? The other side trying to effectively shut me down, ruin me.
Is it legal for them to come at you for this contempt on the Hart and the Rupp situation, even though they won't hear the Hart's and the Rupp's case, or even let us have a jury, or even hear the merits?
Well, and there's other cases that we've been in his courtroom on that they've personally attacked you, personally attacked Jamie. Not just this case, it's been on other cases that have been in front of him.
This judge has an extreme dislike for Jamie. That I know for sure. What I've been subject to is just personal attacks by opposing counsel in open court. And you cannot do that. That's so unethical. But I think it's had an impact on the judge's perception. If he denies their motion or says, well, I'm going to allow some limited discovery, then there's a chance that he'll say, well, I'm going to postpone this. But I don't, part of me thinks that I don't think he wants to postpone this.
I got a question for both of you, because I've texted both of these, Shelby Harris and Kalama, and they both said there's no trial tomorrow, there's nothing on the docket. They both said that.
What?
That's what they're saying, the two.
Are these county clerks or are these people?
No, these are news
No,
people.
no, these are the newspaper people.
He's pushing everything out.
Well, he denied our motion to shorten time, so he's not even going to hear.
There's no hearings for him.
Are you kidding me?
This is bizarro land.
Call
This
us
is
clerk.
bullshit.
What he's gonna do is have you produce the documents to the court, and he's gonna review. And you get 45 days to do that, and then decide whether or not they're discoverable. He's gonna make a decision whether they're discoverable or not. And then he will communicate. This is gonna be way out, way out.
Wow.
See, it's right there.
There's no way.
I had a feeling.
A judge cannot be reviewing discovery. Ever.
No.
This judge is sitting over the Hart Millennial case as well as the Fossey case. So he's asking for attorney-client communications, which would involve communications regarding those cases. He will have to disqualify himself. He will have to disqualify. He will have to disqualify himself.
So as this looks a bit like a strategy for him to
Get rid of it.
excuse himself from everything.
The reality is that they weren't going to get anything from this, Steve.
I know. It's
And now we can use it to disqualify NAFs.
I love it, man.
Well,
But we always get excited and then we get.
no, this is,
But imagine.
Jamie, this is an order. This is an order where he says, I want to review your confidential, privileged communications in my office. There is no way with that happening that he can sit and preside over your cases. None. Coming in, Jamie. Hey.
Hi, honey.
I think we got it, baby. I think we're gonna be able to get rid of this judge. So the way I look at it is sometimes if you put yourself out there as a target, which I've done in this case, then they go too far and you got him. I mean, there's just no way he should be allowed to view all of our communications, as well as the communications with Rupp and all of these cases.
That's attorney-client privilege.
Yeah, we get to respond to that. And it's a basic rule of law. I mean, a judge is supposed to be impartial.
If he fights us, we can get a writ, we can go to the Supreme Court.
Absolutely. I mean, he's going to be faced, we have to move in front of him to disqualify him first, so that's going to be a very interesting hearing.
Talk about, we're going to defrock the Pope?
Well, he has to decide whether to defrock himself, you know. And
I've always wondered what was under that bow tie.
we'll find out. But
I'm not going to get my hopes up, Nate.
No. But you know,
We're dying on this fucking hill.
I don't think we're going to die.
We might homestead.
Well, the concept has been played out in Westerns since the very beginning of film and production. How many railroads are coming to town and stealing the land of the farmer or the widow on the edge of town that they run her off her property? Oh, Bonanza, Hoss Cartwright fighting for the land that the developers are trying to take from them to, you know, the squatters are taking their land. And I mean, this has been played, this scenario, it's like every old Western movie got condensed into 2024. Except now it's not the railroad, it's the smart city. And how would it be if I just walked up to the house in town and says, sorry, I want your sidewalk and your front gate. Now it's mine. Well, you can't take that. Oh, well, here's a piece of paper that says I did.
It wasn't that long ago when something like this would happen to someone, and they're protecting their family, they're protecting their ability to make a living, they're protecting their freedoms. They're going to use forceful means to do that. The Harts are very peaceful people. You really don't want to think about what it would be like if suddenly that process goes away.
People need to realize just because you have a lot of land doesn't give somebody else the right to it.
To some degree, this has always kind of happened to my dad and to the Harts because we have so much land. People are like, oh, they've got it all. I want some. Well, we're not rich, but we're land rich. We're water rich. But we don't want to sell that water and we don't want to sell that land. We just want to live on it and raise our families on it.
That's it. I mean, why does somebody else have the authority and the right to come and tell a landowner that's had the land in their families for 100 or more years, the right to tell them that you no longer have any rights for your own property, we're going to take it over. And they do all this underhanded crap to do it.
I don't want to sell it. And I ain't going to stand for them trying to take it away from me illegally, you know. Because, hell, it's been in the family for a long time now.
I would say $75 million in revenue that we could have had off of just 75 to 100 acres of commercial land, you know. So it's really cost us a lot.
And neither one of us are against progress. We understand it has to happen.
Yeah.
We just don't want it to happen here
without our permission.
And it should be anybody that owns land anywhere, they should be able to make the choice whether they want to develop and sell their farm and ranch, or if they don't and they want to protect it. It's their land. They should be able to do what they want with it.
They want us to go broke so they can have our land for nothing and they can make the millions.
And now the latest we've heard is if we want access across that 10 feet strip, we have to pay them $20 million.
Yep.
I just want to save the ranch for past generations in perpetuity and for future generations. And if someday the family isn't there and nobody wants it and everybody decides it's time to let it go, then that should be up to us and no one else.
As soon as you recognize they're just out to fucking cheat you, that they're trying to steal your land, then you go to a judge that should settle the case for you, but he's never ever settled any case.
Something has got to be done. And I think between the Harts and us, that's the only chance we've got of cleaning up this judicial system here in Pocatello, in Bandy County. There's got to be something done somehow to put those guys back in their corner and let them realize that they need to be punished.
Everybody was doing really good job playing their long con with my dad. This squatter, these other gals, millennial group, Papy, city officials, the neighbors. They were all happy playing their long con with my dad. And when I got here and he said, Jamie, I can't do it anymore. I need you. And then, of course, I come in, they're like, oh shit, the con is over. And so people don't like me, and that's fine. They don't need to like me. But that's my daddy, and these are my great-grandparents, and my grandparents, and my aunts and uncles, and my nieces and nephews, and my daughter, and my grandnieces and nephews, and their spouses, and my neighbors, and our family friends like the Rupps and the Johnsons. Daddy made it my job to hold on to this place and take care of the estate and take care of this family. And I'm not gonna put up with any of this shit anymore.
You can outrun the devil, but you ain't gonna
Hey, you remember the whistleblower we heard about the FBI had that was a former city council member?
Yeah, I remember they told us all about some whistleblower, but I was starting to think it was a mythical being.
Yeah, well, I just got an email from her this morning. I called her and talked to her for about an hour and a half, and she wants to do a interview with us, and she wants to help us out with this whole situation. You know what? She actually had to move to Montana to get away from everybody there. The powers that be were making it really hard for her and her husband to live.
Wow. When does she want to get together?
As soon as possible. I think we're going to do it next week.
When I was young